This is Bless Radio. It's Tuesday evening, just past 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Southeast London, and as usual, joining me is Gregory. Gregory, how are you and how is the weather where you are?
We are fine here, and it's cloudy and a bit rainy here.
Okay, same here, overcast, and it's raining here as well in London, Southeast London, where I am. Welcome, listeners, to this show, the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL Message by Abdrushing. And we have a new topic every week for discussion. The topic tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. And I'll just repeat it again. It's experience, cognition, and recognition. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the GRAIL message? The GRAIL message in the light of truth by Abdrushing is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The GRAIL message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the GRAIL message, Abdrushing. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the GRAIL message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the GRAIL message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic we're discussing tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Listeners, I'm sure you are aware in the news of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of the late Queen of UK, Commonwealth, and her realms, has passed away on Thursday, last Thursday, and we send our condolences to the royal family and the people of her realms. And Gregory, I thought we can talk about that in the beginning of our show quite a bit, because obviously it's big news here in UK and also in the world, and how people are reacting to it as well, since our topic is experience, cognition, and recognition. So if I take that up first, Gregory, and I'm not going to go into the definitions of experience, cognition, and recognition just yet. We'll just go into our questions just now for the moment. So as I said, Gregory, people are mourning and even celebrating the extraordinary life of the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, for her service of 70 years. And many are emotional, even though they did not know her personally, but they feel close to her through the stories of others who met her and watching on TV and so on. And so my first question, Gregory, is, should we grieve or not at her passing, or celebrate her life?
Thanks for this particular question. Should we grieve? In the first instance,
just a moment, Gregory. Sorry, Gregory, can you just make your voice louder, or the loudspeaker louder?
I say thanks for this particular question. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's better now. Yeah.
The first challenge is, what does one mean by grieving? So when one examines things very carefully, of course, there is always a beginning. And since life on earth is temporal, it means there will be an end. So, in these matters, one must consider the beginning, or from the beginning to the end, and what the individual, or what the soul has been able to accomplish. If that which the soul was able to accomplish has been of benefit in accordance with the laws of creation, then there must be celebration for all the opportunities that have been granted that individual to accomplish those things which the personality had done. So the idea or the notion of grieving does not really hold in the sense that one was able to accomplish many things in their lifetime.
Thank you for that, Gregory. You know, I think people are doing both. They're grieving and they're celebrating, because obviously when you have been there for 70 years, you know, she has passed on, as people say, people even look at her like their own grandmother, and you know, get, like I said, learning from her wisdom and her grace and her reassuring hand, you know, being there for so long. So I think people are experiencing both grief and celebration. They feel both, and at the same time they're aware that there's a new king, you know, taking over straight away. So it's like they can't ignore that as well. That's also part of the reality. So I think, Gregory, in your answer, as you've said, you know, we can always, this might be a little way, not maybe the best way to put it, but life carries on, you know. Even one person dies, a new person is born, and just life continues. But it's how we see it, that's how we experience life, you know. But obviously today's topic, we will explore this in a very deep way, you know, so let's say we can get a right sense of how we're supposed to experience things.
When you said,
yes, go ahead, Gregory. Yeah.
When you said how we are supposed to experience things,
yes,
that's a bit strange, because each personality, depending on his or her maturity, will take in experiences at different times, and these experiences will be interpreted in accordance with their own maturity. So it is very difficult to put down a rule. This is how one needs to experience things. For some, are taught in a sort of material way. Others are taught in their thought, and others are taught in their intuition. So each one has varying maturity in this category. So each person definitely we experience according to how he or she has matured.
Thank you for that correction, Gregory. As soon as I said it, I did feel a bit funny. So, you know, it's quite funny how we are, you know. It's like you can sense things within you when you speak, or when you pick up something. So thank you for picking that up. Now, I just want to continue a little bit more on this, Gregory, since it's quite a major event, you can say. So now, another way people are, how can I say, acting with the passing of the Queen. You know, some people, Gregory, they're not happy with the, let's say, how, because royalty is connected with government and, let's say, history, and the British Empire, in this case, I'm thinking of at the moment, where many people think, oh, Britain is responsible for, you know, their colonies and abuse in their colonies with slavery and other terrible sort of way of governing. And something, oh, the Queen is, well, they think she's a symbolic person representing that, you know, the British Empire in a way. So I want to ask you, Gregory, is that right, that people are, you know, viewing this, the Queen in that way, that she represents the whole country and its past?
In the first case, people are entitled to their perceptions. Of course, there were errors during her reign, and also many wrong things were done, one can also say that right things were done along the line. So there were some errors which led to wrong things, and on the other hand, there were right things. However, each personality each personality who has recognized that which is wrong should first learn from it, and subsequently to ensure that that which they themselves have recognized as wrong, that they should never repeat it on others. However, also, that which they themselves have recognized as right, they should embrace it and ensure they make use of that which was right for their benefits and for the benefit of others.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Just a little bit more on that point. Should it, as you said, people have made errors, or somebody may have made error, and they have also done things right. And so obviously you shouldn't look only on one side. Just so the further point I want to ask on that, Gregory, should some people that is, putting the blame on the Queen for the whole country's past, as if she's fully responsible for, everything. And I'm talking about the bad things here at the moment. So because the people don't seem to be so bothered about the good things somehow. But just to focus on that a little bit more, like I say, is it right to put the full blame of the bad things of the past on the Queen, as if that represents the whole country and her past and the country's past?
Well, it is said that the Queen, particularly in this instance, has her own limits which she cannot trespass. And in that particular case, she does not make laws as such, but have to rely on the government, on the political government. It is not true that you have only one party. There are various parties, and they have come in to govern at different times. So it will not be right for the person who didn't make the laws as such to be blamed completely. Like we said, the personality of the king or the queen is only more like a figurehead. Long time ago, they made the laws. They dictated what should happen. But that is not the case anymore. And like has been stressed, if there were laws which were erroneous, let people learn from that such that they will not repeat it in their own lives on others. So that is a great lesson. And that which is right, which they themselves have perceived, they should make use or take a cue from that as an example and do that which will benefit them and others. So, looked at from all sides, lessons can be drawn rather than a blame game going from left to right and right to left.
Thank you so much for that, Gregory. It's just good to, reflect, you could say, objectively in these matters. And because and then we look at ourselves as well, not just oh, here's someone else. It's easy to point a finger on someone else, but also look at ourselves. So thank you for that. Now, Greg, I want to look at, the topic tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. So like I do usually, I like to look in the dictionary to get the meaning of the key words. So the first word there is experience. And in the dictionary, Gregory, I found these meanings, a few meanings actually. First meaning given for experience, it says practical contact with and observation of facts or events. And the sentence they've given as an example there is, he had learned his lesson by painful experience. So let me just repeat that again. So the meaning in dictionary for experience, it says practical contact with and observation of facts or events. An example by sentence is, he had learned his lesson by painful experience. Now, is that a good definition, Gregory, for our discussion?
That may be taken as an approximate, but it's a bit confusing in the sense that when experience is mentioned as an expression, that experience could be a material experience. It could be an experience in thought. It could also be an experience in one's intuition. That which you yourself just pointed out does not differentiate. It just talks of experience as such. So, was it a material experience through contact, or something which one had to suffer or enjoy from physically, or was it more of a mental, or was it that of an intuition? That is what has not been clarified.
Thank you very much for this answer, Gregory. So I have a second part of that definition, which probably helps a bit more, and you can comment on it as well, which is, so the second part of the meaning I found in the dictionary, it's the meaning of experience, an event or occurrence which leaves an impression on someone. And the example in the sentence is, audition day is an enjoyable experience for any 7-year-old. So
that is much closer to that word experience. In that particular case, that is more of a physical experience. That for that physical experience leaves a strong impression on that personality, albeit a 7-year-old. That personality haven't gone through physically through that audition, absorbed these experiences, to be taken in through his thought, and then takes to one's intuition, which will then be used as objects or as tokens for further upbuilding.
Thank you for that, Gregory. What I'm seeing here, if we are to, let's say, go deeper into the word experience, it's not like a mundane event of just eating. It's got to be something that leaves an impression. So something memorable. Is that right? Is that how we're supposed to look at this word?
We won't say that eating is not memorable.
Maybe that's, I was using two, let's say two, yeah, because obviously it can be memorable, that's true. So maybe the key word is something that is memorable, which is can we call it, Gregory, something that is touches, gives an impression, a deeper, touches us deeply? Maybe that's way.
Yes.
Is that a
You
way to
use
put
the
it?
word impression.
Hmm.
That is the key there. For that which is an impression, that impression could have come about through one of the senses which is granted to the human personality to experience here on earth. And that being the case, strong impressions are then generated within the frontal brain, which, on the other hand, strikes the back brain and straight to one's spirit. So, yes, that to a large extent depicts what experience is.
Thank you for that. Now, Gregory, with experiences, let's say they've happened, so something in the past has happened in the past. So, as I mentioned a little bit, like memories. So, let me ask this way: what is the purpose of an experience? Is it to have memories, and what's the purpose?
An experience is more of an event through which the human personality needs to mature. So in gathering experiences, is able to use these experiences for a maturing process. That means it's able to differentiate which experiences help it to make progress and which experiences do not help it to make progress. So experiences are useful, but only through experiences is the human personality able to differentiate. There are, of course, physical experiences in which they participate physically. A simple example could be that if one is ill. When one is ill, that is more of a physical experience, or when one is hungry. However, that experience also has an impact on one's thinking. And one's thinking, when well absorbed, can also have an impact on one's intuition. So, when experience is mentioned in which you have an event which has happened physically, you will find that it has impact on one's senses, which has a retroactive effect on one's intuition.
Thank you again for this answer, Gregory. What I'm getting from what you're saying is an experience is not purely the physical activity that we observe, but it needs to, we already mentioned it's something that leaves an impression. So it has to pass on from the, you could say, the physical to the, well, right up to the spiritual, let's say. It needs to go through that, through that process where it really touches us. So that is a true experience. And it's, of course, as you say, the purpose is for our maturing. So we will look at that further.
It would be good to give a bit of further example.
Yes.
In the case of the passing of the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, what had happened is that the human personality that used that body has left it. In that case, it is she herself who has experienced the passing. However, many others who have not experienced the departing have in their thought some strong impression of the departure of the Queen. That is in their thought. It leaves an impression. Some, to go further, that it also leaves an impression, a very strong impression in their intuition. That is also an impression. So you have experience of the intuition, experience of the thought, and experience of the physical.
Thank you so much for that, Gregory, making that picture. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's a Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL Message by Abdrushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the GRAIL Message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. Experience, cognition, and recognition. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, and this is for the live show. So on the youtube.com, type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. You can listen to the recording of this show also the next day. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space GRAIL Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. And of course, you can listen to the previous shows as well on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO FM / sorry, let me get that right. Zeno.fm. Yes, so ZENO.fm / Bless Radio 1. So Gregory, I've got a question from a listener, and I'm going to start with that now. They're asking, is breathing can be considered as an experience?
Sorry, come again. It wasn't clear.
The question is from a listener. It says, I would say, can breathing be considered as an experience?
Of course, breathing is a continuous experience. For when it stops, the personality is on his or her way out. So breathing has an impact on the senses and also an impact on the spirit, on the soul. Strictly speaking, it is the soul that activates the physical body, and subsequently that cycle which is initiated and called breathing.
Thank you. Thank you, and I hope, listener, that answers the question. And if you have anything further, please get back to us. Thank you for that. Gregory, I was thinking, actually, I slightly lost my track, but I will just come back. So again, thinking about the experiencing, is it, how can I put it, our level of experiencing, Gregory, is it dependent on, let me say, the ability of experiencing? Is there some limitation on it according to how we are? Let's say, can I say, for example, maybe our diet? Are there influences on the way we experience this, Gregory, physically, you said intuitively, and other ways that can affect our experiencing? So what I'm asking, in a way, Gregory, if two people are experiencing who are, let's say, similar in all, let's say, abilities, same level of abilities and so on, can there be some differences there that can, let me ask that in a second, in a moment. Let me just start again this question. So, let me just look at it this way, Gregory. So, can our experiencing be affected, let's say, by physical conditions? Let me say that way.
Of course, our experiencing can be affected by physical condition. A very simple example is you have that the tools for experiencing are the five senses. And in these cognitive objects for experiencing, if one takes out one, take for instance, in one's taste, you have all the person who is doing the experiencing she likes to drink so much. Of course, that sense of taste varies from the other person who does not drink so much. The same thing with the sense of smell. So you find that these tools for experiencing, which has been granted by nature, can be affected through our way of living. The personality who smokes heavily will have that smoking effect on his person, on the way he perceives certain things, using the five senses. Similar to the person who drinks, similar to the person who takes a lot of drugs. So these things have an effect. Another very simple example, when you go to the hospital for an operation, then you are sedated with some drugs such that you will not have such bad or such severe pain on your body. That means in the touch. So what that means is that some drugs, depending on how they are utilized, have an impact on your sensation. These tools for sensations are the five senses. So one can see how these things have an impact. What one needs to do is to find the connections, the right connections, and then the answer or the solution becomes apparent.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. What I'm thinking from that, what you've said there, is then everybody's seeing the reality in a different way, and does that mean they can't recognize? All of us will have a different picture according to the state we are in, and so I'm just wondering, Gregory, does it make so people will get to different conclusions with the way they're perceiving things? So, and my point in that is, if that's what is happening, so can one really know what the reality is? So, what I'm thinking about in this matter, Gregory, is that if something is really factually correct, is that because maybe our senses can deceive us in potentially that what we see is not reality, is something because we are affected by whatever the state we are in.
Actually, it's not the senses that deceive us. It is we ourselves who, through our activities, who are unable to utilize that which is invariant, and that is our intuition. So that which is a reality and is of upbuilding, that we will have a sensation of uprightness and a sensing of elevation in moving up in accordance with the laws of creation. Whereas that which is not upright, that which gives us a depressing feeling, as if we are under the weight imposed on us by gravity, that gives us a reality of depression. So it is very clear. The tools which is used only remain tools. The reality is only experienced by the human soul or the human spirit. All others are tools through which these impressions flow through to have an impact on the spirit. How the spirit then makes use of it for its benefits, that is a different discussion.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Just to be clear, because some of when you were speaking, I couldn't hear every word fully. So I'm just going to say, not ask you to repeat anything, but I'm just going to say what I can, in my understanding, and then you can, say yes or no, or sort of reconfirm. Firstly, Gregory, what we are meant to get in experiencing is, you can say, whatever we see, let's say physically, it needs to be passed on to the spirit, if I'm getting the right impression there, and it's the spirit who makes sense of that or makes use of that. Now, so just to get that clear, Gregory. So the reality, Gregory, is what the spirit experiences, rather than the senses themselves. Is that what is meant to happen?
The senses are only channels through which these events, through which these impressions pass. The possibility is also there that we clog these channels through various activities. In that case, what therefore impacts on the spirit is not as strong as in the case where the channels have not been clogged. For, like had been stressed, a human personality who drinks heavily or smokes heavily, the impressions which now impact on the spirit are different, as in the case where he or she did not smoke heavily or drink heavily. Again, the type of diet which the human personality indulges in also have an impact.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Now, is there any practice we should be adopting, Gregory, for us to experience, let's say, in a most ideal way, that we see things clearly, and is there some practice that we should be adopting, so that we get, let's say, the best experiencing?
Of course, there are practices, and the universal practice which had been granted, say, in the work in the light of truth, the GRAIL message, is to keep the hearth of your thoughts pure. By so doing, the human personality will bring peace and happiness for itself and others.
Thank you so much for that, Gregory. It's a very beautiful way, for this picture to be the practice. It's like, how can I put it? It's just so simple, and just to be this way, and for me, I think anyone can do that. Just to, let's say, become pure, you could say. That's in a way what you're saying, Gregory. Become pure within yourself, and that takes away all the blockages for you to allow to receive, whatever experience you're going through. So thank you for that. Now, Gregory, they say experience is the best teacher. So now, but people also give advice, or let me say another way, you can learn from other people's experiences. So what is the best way, Gregory? Learn by yourself from your own experience, or watching other people?
A combination of self-experience and also using the experiences of others, or one may say learning from the impact of that which others have experienced. When that is permitted to have an impact on the personality, in their thoughts, in their intuitions, then that is also a valuable experience for the human personality.
Thank you for that. And Gregory, I also want to ask, we started at the beginning saying people make errors, or have done things wrong and they have done things right. But I'm wondering, Gregory, if we see things only from our point of view, if I can say from our own impressions, I'm not always sure that we see the full picture and we really can be sure, oh, this activity I did was right or it was wrong. And so I want to ask, should we rely on our own impression? Let's say we take an action and then we get some, you could say, a feedback somehow, our own impression of it, and then we say, oh yeah, that was a good action or it was not a good action. But should we rely on that, or should we look also at the reaction of other people to our actions, and then should we do that as well?
One's first impression is always the correct one. At the same time, one must know that just as he himself or herself has an impression, so are others. In that particular scenario, it must be that he himself or herself must strive to ensure purity in his or her activities, just like others. In this particular consideration, it will be one for all and all for one. In that case, that is equivalent with the saying, to love thy neighbor as thyself.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I think as we are talking today, our discussion is sort of expanding, and we have a, let's say, broad understanding of this topic of experience, cognition, and recognition. So far, we have only spoken about experience, a little bit about cognition and recognition. So we will go further about the other two in the next moments, let's say. Now, Gregory, in many of our previous shows, we've talked about that we human beings or spirits started our life as spirit germs, as unconscious spirit germs. Our journey started, let's say, in the spiritual world, in heaven, you can say paradise, and then we started there as unconscious spirit germs, and then traveled through some worlds without going through all the specifics, and came to this earth for our development to become self-conscious, mature human spirits. And this earth is like our learning place and development place. Now, so my question now, Gregory, is does our level of consciousness or self-consciousness affect our experiencing?
Of course, our level of consciousness or self-consciousness affects our experiencing. For when there is an impression which we have taken from the outside, the interpretation of that impression is dependent on our inner maturity. There are, in some cases, where people, instead of losing patience, they exercise patience. Instead of things which are not virtuous. They bring perseverance into it. So our level of maturity, our level of self-consciousness has an impact on the way we then experience. For the more the human personality matures, the more the virtues, which virtues are to be cultivated, the more those virtues are brought into activities.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory, because you just again reminded me of the Queen, that she's considered to be wise and gracious and reassuring. You know, on the TV we've been hearing many stories of when people have met her saying, you know, maybe they were nervous or whatever, let's say, concerns that they had when they were meeting the Queen, but the Queen was so good with them, even if they were making mistake in how they're supposed to greet her or whatever they were doing, but the Queen was so gracious with them that, you know, she put them at ease. And so what I'm thinking, Gregory, that is another quality of, you could say, maturity. We mentioned maturity of, you know, one of the characteristics, you know, how can I say, somebody who's developed to that level, because we're talking about consciousness and self-consciousness. Somebody's developed that level of consciousness that they know how to deal with any situation. And so you could say that's the type of person, you could say is a good example, or somehow we are supposed to achieve that sort of level. And so in relation to that, Gregory, is there a way that you can assess, you know, our level of consciousness is so that why I'm asking that, Gregory, because when somebody is that, even I want to use the word the Queen as a wise person, because people say that too, you know, so somebody who's reached that level, you know, and we can look up to that person and learn from that person. So is there a way, Gregory, for us to realize that? Because in this world of today, people say, oh, is the Queen got there through her, you know, hereditary, she's not elected and all that. But somehow when we think like that, we ignore, let's say, the high qualities of a human being. So my question on that, Gregory, is there a way we can assess about somebody's level of maturity, and we can also assess our own maturity?
Of course, there is a way. For when one examines, there are the physical activities that also have the activities in one's thoughts and the activities in one's intuition. Only when, in accordance with the laws of creation or the divine laws, only when you have the scenario where this patience and perseverance is applied physically, patience and perseverance is applied in one's thoughts, patience and perseverance is applied in one's intuition. These three different areas, only then can one categorically say that there has been a change for the better. Else, there are scenarios where in one's thoughts, one is impatient, one does not persevere, yet physically, one may show perseverance. So one can see the activities, the physical activities, may be different from one's thoughts, may be different from one's intuitions. How one has to show, or how one has to exhibit, looking at the three different categories, now depends how one had been striving to mature in accordance with the laws of creation. For the physical activities, when one has dropped the physical body, that is of no consequence anymore. The same thing one may say about one's thoughts. What remains is the intuition. For the intuition becomes the language of communication, of experiencing when the physical body has been dropped. That is what defines where the human spirit will go hereafter.
Thank you so much for that picture and answer, Gregory. It really helps us to, see our abilities, and how we are supposed to apply them. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL Message by Abdushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the GRAIL Message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, GRAIL, message, MESSAGE.com. And you're listening to Bless Radio, and we are broadcasting on blessradio1.com. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show the next day. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again, space GRAIL Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. And you can also hear us on Zeno, which is ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 again. And to remind you, the topic we're discussing tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Now, Gregory, I want to move on to the second part of the title of our topic tonight, which is the word cognition. So, again, I like to look in the dictionary for the meaning of the word. And so here in the dictionary, I found, for the meaning of cognition, the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experiences, and the senses. There's another meaning given as well, but I just want to focus on this one first. So I'll just repeat that. The meaning of cognition, the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. So, Gregory, is that a good definition?
Like we have discussed many a time, these are definitions granted by those who did the collation as an interpretation to cognition. When one hears that word cognition, basically one sees structures which nature has granted. These structures which are, one would say, recognizable, or which one can sense. Hence the word senses. These structures have been granted by nature such that the human personality can make use of this structure for experiencing. So those channels that the human personality may utilize in discussions appertaining to cognitions here on earth are the five senses. For it is the five senses that are used for cognition.
Thank you for that. Now, when you refer to the five senses, Gregory, which we are knowing are the physical senses, so just to be clear, is cognition, maybe we need to fit everything together, experience, cognition, and recognition, but let's not do that immediately yet. Let's just go one step at a time. So with regards to cognition, is cognition a physical sensing activity? Let me call it that way.
Cognition may be physical, may be non-physical. For an example, when one sees a plant, that seeing of the plant, that goes through one of the senses. So one may talk about cognitive objects. That object is the plant.
Right. Okay. So yes, seeing the plant, and I can understand that would be observing an object. Okay. And in my own mind, Gregory, when I think of the word cognition, there's some sort of point of, I'm thinking in my own mind the word cognize. I don't know if that's even a word or not, but like a verb. Cognize is like, it's like a brother of recognizing. So you have the ability to determine that, just like you said, there's an object there. You now can tell that this is what object that is. You're cognizing the object. My question on that is, yes, is it, Gregory, just to get clear again, cognizing, is it just that you see something, or is it also another step of,
one perceives something?
Yes.
One perceives a token, and in perceiving that token, one is able to differentiate one token or one object from another object. For instance, one sees a plant, that is a token which is taken in as a plant. One sees a rock, that is taken in as a token for rock.
Thank you. So it's you see it or perceive it, and you could say distinguish it as well. So thank you for that. Now,
Just as you and I are talking,
yes,
you cannot see me, I cannot see you, but through our ears, which is the mode of perception, we are able to communicate. So, through the sense of hearing, one is able to differentiate in the structures which you yourself or myself have put forward and have clarity.
thank you for that. Now, another question I'd like to ask about cognition is, what is the purpose of cognition?
The purpose of cognition is to be able to utilize these objects and differentiate one object from another. Otherwise, all of it would have been the same object. So if there is no cognition, or if there is no cognitive object, how would you then, through perception, differentiate that which is a plant and differentiate that which is not a plant?
Thank you for that. And again, Gregory, like I asked before with the experiencing, is it that people have different ability of cognition? So some are more superior than others, or is every human being has the same ability of cognition?
What you yourself have classified or categorized as superior is only a measure of how each personality has utilized these senses of perceptions which has been granted to it. In that measure of use, they have come to some maturity. A simple example, here we are discussing, there are some who have a better command of the English language and therefore have a deeper understanding in writing poetry or prose. The same thing comes to singing. You and I may not be able to sing, or maybe we sing like a toad or like a frog, but there are some others who are more sonorous. So it depends on the use. There are others who are also able to compose music. Each personality, depending on how they have used these cognitive objects for their personal maturity, that is what brings the, in quotes, superiority or lack of superiority.
Thank you for that. Again, is there any practice that we can apply to develop a deeper cognition?
The human personality needs to experience. Experience here on earth in one's daily activities. Experience to differentiate different activities. Experience in their thoughts. And above all, experience in their intuition.
Thanks for that. And Gregory, with regards to cognition, is there also, we know with experiencing, the maturity was a very key factor in how we experience. Does that also apply in cognition, that how we cognize? I'm using the verb now. Is there some difference with maturity in how we cognize. That's the word I'm using.
The difference in maturity depends on how we ourselves, in our volition, make use of these objects which has been granted us. For instance, for someone who remains in their bedroom, that particular personality cannot compare his cognitive abilities to the other person who moves out to experience in different places. For in that particular case of the person moving out, there will be many more objects, many more experiences, many varied objects along the line that he or she is able to interact with in their thoughts or in their everyday life, to be able to differentiate one token from another token.
Thanks for that. And Gregory, I just want to look at another angle now. Animals, they also have their own, or let's say similar abilities to us human beings. So I want you to just compare, you could say, or look at what the animals can do. Let's see. So in regard to cognition with animals, is there, Gregory, because with evolution and, well, just the animals having let's say, their talents of some things they're, let's say, better at than we human beings are in, let's say, smelling or seeing. Some, each one of us, each of our species are different abilities or level of abilities, let me say, because they also have the five senses. So what I want to ask Gregory, do the animals have also, how can I say, a sharper cognition than us in some ways?
These are different categories. When one is mentioning one is sharper, that one is not as sharp, one must compare the same categories, not different categories. For the inner core of man is spirit. The inner core of the animal is of animistic. These are different categories. For the animal is led by that of the animistic, and it becomes sharper and sharper within the animistic when they utilize that which they have been endowed again and again. Man is of a different species. Man is of spirit.
Thank you for that. So we should compare apples with apples and oranges with oranges and not different species. I knew that was, let's say, it should be this way. So you should not really compare something different. Now, yes, I think I might as well go into recognition now, Gregory, and then we can look at everything together. So let me tell, so I looked at the third part of our title tonight is recognition. And again, in the dictionary, the word recognition, it says identification of someone or something or person from previous encounters or knowledge. And the the sentence they've given us as an example is, she saw him pass without a sign of recognition. So I'll just repeat that. The meaning of recognition in the dictionary, it says identification of someone or something or person from previous encounters or knowledge. So Gregory, is that a good definition for recognition?
Well, you said recognition being tied to something or someone. But recognition is much deeper than that. So the definition you yourself just gave is only a very limited, or has a very limited scope. For there could be recognition within the physical, there could be recognition within one's thoughts, having experienced in thoughts or in touch. There could also be recognition within one's intuition. However, recognition is strongly tied to the spirit through one's intuition. For when one examines it very carefully, when it comes to recognition which is tied to physical things, you have it is and remain within the earthly boundary. The same thing with one's thought processes in recognition. However, an experience which has a strong stamp on one's spirit, for that strong impression has gone via one's intuition to the human spirit. That strong experience remains there, and if subsequently the human personality reincarnates in a different region, it is able to make use of that experience when it senses something similar here on earth in its subsequent reincarnation. It's also able to make use of that experience. That means it's able to recognize things in different realms when it senses, cognitive objects which it has encountered maybe whilst here on earth or when it had departed. So recognition as such is tied to the spirit.
Thank you so much for that answer and definition, Gregory, because now we're tying it all together, as you can see from this word's recognition now, because it looks, the word recognition sounds like something coming from cognition, but recognizing, or re-seeing what you saw before. And so because you saw it before and now you're seeing it again. Recognition, it sounds that way when you look at that word. And but how we see it, maybe it was not clear up till in the dictionary definition. It's like, oh, I saw that person before, and so that is I have recognized the person. But from what you have just said, Gregory, it's more than that. In fact, it's even another way to look at it. You could have seen it from a previous life or had some impression of it before, and now you see something similar. So it's a much deeper or much broader than the general understanding that people might have. So this is really, who can say, deeper. And the other point is that it has to be seen spiritually. So rather than just the physically that we might be thinking. So thank you for that clarification, I can say. And then, now, so Gregory, from what you've said, it looks like the recognition, because it has to be seen spiritually, it's like you're making sense of, what's behind something. It's so maybe I can just ask you directly, Gregory, what actually is the purpose of recognition?
Recognition calls back pictures, or calls precisely impressions. Impressions which might have assailed the personality at one point, at one time or the other. A simple example is the case of awakening of the human personality. The human personality sensing joy, overwhelming joy and happiness. Which joy and happiness it must have sensed at the beginning of its journey in living paradise in order to experience further. Even at that time, there were streams of power that touched it, that nudged it to open up to the environment in which it is, or it was, in order to mature. In that case, one may say it opened itself to perceive of the objects at an initial stage. But those perceptions were not very, very strong, so it needed to experience such that those perceptions will be much stronger than when it started. Therefore, when joys assail it, it's more of a recognition of that which it had perceived, which joy knows no bound. And that is why the need is there for the human personality to strive to ensure that its activities, if they are in accord with the laws of creation, which granted it, the human spirit, the possibility to mature into a full-fledged, self-conscious personality, that then in accordance with these laws, it will attain to joy and happiness, perpetual joy and happiness. That is the goal, and that is why these earlier experiences are called back such that they will serve as an incentive to draw it higher and higher through the streams of radiations that permeate the different strata before they now get to the human spirit. It is the task of the human personality to perceive and recognize these streams that come from on high. Only when it recognizes these streams, only then is it able to make use of these streams of power in accordance with the will of Him who granted it, the human spirit, these possibilities to mature.
Thank you for that picture, Gregory. It's opening up, how can I say, a bigger world than we might be aware of. And I'm going to explore that further now in a moment. And thank you very much for bringing that out. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the GRAIL message by Abdushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the GRAIL message or want to get a copy of the GRAIL message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is experience, cognition, and recognition. I'll say it again, experience, cognition, and recognition. If you have any questions that you'd like to talk about or discuss, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of this show also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space, GRAIL message, and then space, topic of the show, which is experience, cognition, and recognition. And of course you can listen to our previous shows, recordings of previous shows, also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno, that is ZENO.FM/Bless Radio 1, the number 1 again. Now, Gregory, as we've now got into we've talked about experience at the beginning of the show, in the first part of the show, and then moved on to cognition, and now we've moved on to recognition. And in your previous answers, you talked about joy, let's say, well, I mean, it made me think that that's what people are looking for, happiness, in peace in their life. These are questions. Who am I? Where do I come from? And all of this, Gregory, is comes unconsciously. We don't know where it's coming from, but it's always there. For many of us, it's always there. And then, let's say, we are seeking that happiness, peace. And it can be, some people are looking more from the earthly basis to find a security or foundation with home and family and so on. Others are more, you could say, looking in a more spiritual way, but there's a longing, you could say, inside all of us. And when you just, in your last answer, it all came out to me that we are looking for this, and I was wondering, even the question, who am I, or where do I come from? And so looking at this from this, the way our topic is experience, cognition, and recognition. And another thing I'm thinking, Gregory, in our life, we're always learning and developing, discovering things. So But mostly, let's say, those are, in a way, looking in earthly way, going from a child to adulthood and education, and then you said living that way. But those deeper questions of the spiritual question, you can say, which we have, but maybe not always we get answers to it. So with regard to this topic tonight, are we meant to, Gregory, discover these answer to these questions within ourselves? Is that through this process of experiencing cognition and recognition?
Cognitive objects or tokens have always been there. Even we ourselves, are we not objects or tokens that have come into existence in order to develop, grow, mature? For when one observes objects in nature, like the environment, there are plants, there are animals, there are men, there is the wind, there is the sky, there are, in quotes, the stars in the firmament. There are even clouds out there. There is the moon. These are all objects. These are all cognitive objects. Therefore, nature has already made provisions for us to be able to perceive of these objects. The ones just mentioned are those objects which have an impact on one's sight. There are others which you may not be able to see, but they have an impact on one's sense of smell. There are others that have an impact on one's sense of tasting. Others have an impact on one's sense of hearing or of one's sense of speech. These are all tied to perception and the tools of perception. However, having looked at these cognitive objects or these cognitive structures, the need arises to have a clear understanding of why these structures are out there to help us to mature in making use of that which one has seen, or what one has heard, or what one has experienced, which experience has passed on to the spirit, the inner core of man. So these objects are out there to help us to mature through our observations and our interactions with these objects. It is through the interaction with these objects that one now moves from the stage of cognition to the stage of recognition. The recognition now being that state in which one, using the power of the streams from out of the higher realms, one is able to gain a finer understanding of that which has been granted the human personality to use in its maturity. So these cognitive objects are there to be utilized by us one may also stress that these cognitive objects are also parts of radiations that stream out from the higher realms, which radiations now form centers of accumulations. That which you refer to as energy, or that you refer as matter, is only condensed energy. One can also look at the plants that way, or the animals, or also ourselves. So all that one is able to perceive is radiation. How we recognize or how we interact with this radiation now depends on how we're able to recognize that which has been granted to us. So they are all interrelated.
Thank you very much for that, Gregory. I was going to ask my further questions of my own, but before I do that, I've received a question from a listener, which I'm going to read out now. Whilst impressions or intuitive flashes can be missed by a personality for various reasons, can recognitions then be described properly as received impressions? And it is, in other words, once received, do they become indelible for that earth life and subsequently guide towards the right path? So it's quite a long one, Gregory. I'm going to say it again. So this is a question from a listener. Whilst impressions or intuitive flashes can be missed by a personality for various reasons, can recognitions be described as properly received impressions? Can recognitions then be described as properly received impressions? In other words, I'll read that part. Once received, do they become indelible for that earth life and subsequently guide towards the right path?
The question says missed. If one has missed something, how can one then make use of that which he or she has missed? Therefore, most likely, only that which has not been missed and also has been registered indelibly, only that can be made use of, not that which has been missed. For that which has been missed does not provide the opportunity that should be used through the structures.
Thank you very much for that answer, Gregory. Now, I just want to go back to what I was asking, continue from what I was asking before. So, I said about we are seeking happiness, joy, peace, security, even the question of who are we, where do we come from, what is our purpose, and in reference to this experience, cognition and recognition, you could say the process of life that we go are, how we operate, you can say, as human beings. And what I'm thinking, Gregory, again, going back to our previous shows, we've said we started as an unconscious spirit, germ. And the aim, of course, is to become a conscious or self-conscious spirit, mature spirit. And so this is a process, a journey. And I'm thinking, okay, so we have the question, I want to be happy. I want to find, sorry, wondering who I am, what I'm doing. I mean, we've sort of answered it already, but it's a discovery. That's the point I'm trying to make. We're going through a discovery process, investigative process. And so my question now, so and we don't know, Gregory, you know, when we study even the, you could say, the spiritual teachings or beliefs that we come across is still like somebody else's knowledge or theory rather than our own. You know, we can examine it, but it's like somebody's teaching us that. So, which is like, you could say, not our own. The way I can say it is not our own. That's the, I'm not able to say it perfectly. And so, Gregory, is our journey or our life is to come to the realization of who we are, you know, ourselves. I'm sorry, I've got something in my throat there. So is it meant to be, Gregory, using, you could say, our hidden abilities, or let's say unconscious abilities, and to bring them to the conscious, to bring our consciousness? Is this like our path?
To be factual with you, I am not very clear of the import of the question.
Okay.
May I ask you to simplify it?
Right. What I'm saying, Gregory, let's say pretty much every human being has questions in their life about their origin, who they are, what is their purpose, and they have this common thing of seeking for happiness. You know, it's a common goal that we have, and the way it manifests, maybe it's in the earthly home, family, and whatever like that, and others it's for deeper, they're looking for inner peace, you can say. And what I'm asking here is, Gregory, yes, there are teachings out there telling us this way, that way, but is the true journey, Gregory, our own inner journey, you know, of recognition? This is what we're saying: experience, cognition, recognition. You know, whatever people tell us, that is like their own idea, if you can say, or their own philosophy, if I can say it that way. But is the true journey, Gregory, for us to come to our own, our own way, to come to that recognition, to come to the answers to these questions that we have?
Once one may respond, the notion that you have painted is to first understand that those who strive after something, like strive after happiness, even before they start striving after happiness, they sense that they should strive after it. That first step is only a volition. Having a strong volition is the beginning. With that strong volition, one is guided in accordance with the laws of creation, is guided through those paths where one will experience those things which are necessary for that volition to be realized. Those things that are necessary, some of them may be pleasant according to our state of maturity. Some of them may be unpleasant according to our state of maturity. But it is important to know that just as we ourselves individually are pursuing our volitions, so also are others who are pursuing the realization of their volitions. With that clarity, it only means that there may be challenges along the way. Therefore, it is important to share of our experiences, which experiences has accumulated so far in the realizations of our volition. This is necessary so that we don't go back and reinvent the wheel. The simple example here is, in order to realize our volition, there are some people those days who could ride on donkeys from one village to another. There are some who will ride on camels. There are some who will ride on horses. Again, it is possible that even in this earth life, there are some in the realization of their volition, in the paths which they have to follow. Some will have to ride on bicycles, some will have to ride on horses, some on motorcycles, some on cars, some in buses, some in trains, and even the airplane. This also in the realization of the volition which we harbor. The tool we have chosen remains only a tool to enable us to follow the path we have chosen through our volition, just like others. It is important to be able to interact with others, because only through this interaction can you then learn from another person who might say, no, you don't have to ride a bicycle along this path. You might need to take a car, or you might need to take an aircraft to be able to get to where you wish to go to. So through interaction, you share of experiences, which experiences should be registered on one's intuition, and in such a way you make progress. There is progress for you on a personal level, and also progress for the other person. For through voluntary interchange, both parties that are involved in different volition, in order to realize their various volitions, through this voluntary interchange, they mature. Just like you will have the case of a farmer who does the farming to produce the food, and you have the case of a musician who plays the music, is not the farmer. All these are experiences to enrich the personality in the realization, or towards the realization of a volition which had been put in creation. So that is the general picture that one has. The process of discovery is what one then realizes, what then opens up along the path through which that volition needs to take in order to come to a full realization or to come to a full awakening. One should not dismiss the path and the by experiences which one had to undergo along the line. For these experiences, when they touch on the intuition, these experiences, sweet or unsweet, they form an inner structure that helps the human spirit to sharpen its ability to become alert, to become vigilant. So whatever the human personality has then therefore experienced along the line, helps to awaken it to the virtues which he or she is able to then cultivate. That virtue, be it of wisdom, of faithfulness, of vigilance, of kindness. These are all the virtues subsequently which the human personality must awaken. For these virtues are what are needed back home in paradise in order to achieve full joy, full happiness. In the sense, one personality generates joy for itself and others, so also other personalities.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this answer, and the picture again that you built there. It's such a how can I say, beautiful scenery, if I can put it that way, just or scene that you can see the things that life is so much bigger than what we think it is, and so it's good to be be shown that. So thank you for that. Now we've come to the end of the show, listeners, and I like to read from the GRAIL message the introductory foreword, which is titled "For Your Guidance." The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I am addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abdrushin. So, dear listeners, if you want to get more information on the GRAIL message, or want to get a copy of the GRAIL message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, G-R-A-I-L, message, MESSAGE.com. And I hope you've enjoyed the topic tonight, which was experience, cognition, and recognition. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing every listener a beautiful week.
Thank you. And thanks again, listeners, for joining us tonight. I wish you also a great week. God bless. Good night. Bye.
Blessed Radio, the time is 8 o'clock